As I'm sure many of you know, there exists a piece of internet lore that always manages to circle its way back into the foreground, slime its way to the top, slither and glide into your mind space. And I'm not talking about the game, which you just lost. I'm talking about the Immortal Snail. If you don't know what I'm talking about, way back in 2016, before many of you guys were born, a Redditor posed a very interesting question that went as follows. You and a super intelligent snail both get $1 million, and you both become immortal. However, you die if the snail touches you. It always knows where you are and slowly crawls toward you. What's your plan? And while humanity's greatest minds, chronically online Redditors, and children with too much time on their hands have long contemplated this idea, I'm here to finally enlighten you guys with a foolproof plan to defeat the snail. And this is very important because the snail will use any means to get you. And I'm sure you guys know that this plan will be absolutely foolproof and genius because I'm on Reddit way too often and I have the mental maturity of a 5-year-old. So I've prepared a PowerPoint for you guys that I've dubbed Immortal Escargot. But before that, we have to deal with some assumptions about the question. The first assumption is that immortality in this case equals invincibility. That means two things. That one, you cannot die by natural causes, as immortality suggests, but that you are also impervious to any sort of damage. This means that if someone shoots you, if something eats you, if the sun fucking explodes, you do not take any damage. This is really important because if you did take damage, the first thing you'd want to do is touch the snail. You do not want to live a life of immortality where you can literally get nuked, turn into a conscious pile of red mist, and live like that forever. It just sucks. So you are invincible. If the Earth explodes, you're going to be wandering through space. The second assumption we're dealing with is that the snail already exists. This means that it can be any singular snail in the world that has all of a sudden gained consciousness and sentience, and gained hyperintelligence, $1 million, and the power to kill you. This is important because it means you must find the snail. It does not spawn right in front of you. Which leads me to my third assumption, only you can tell which snail it is, with some caveats. Once seen, you will know exactly which snail is your enemy. That means there is no decoy snail. But no one else knows which snail it is. Now that we have the assumptions out of the way, we can begin, and I can save you guys from an eternity of suffering. As George W. Bush probably famously once said, know thy enemy. And knowing thy enemy in this case is knowing which snail can lead to your doom. And because it's too dangerous and time consuming to find it alone, your first task is to convince all of humanity to help you find the snail. Some parts of the plan will also require humanity to find every other or most other snails in the world, but that's a triviality, trust me. I'm not joking when I say this. This part of the plan is actually really easy. There's 1,000,001 ways to do this. You'll figure it out yourself. I mean, people are so easy to manipulate. Which reminds me, if you haven't yet, consider liking and subscribing. If you need some help getting started, for example, you could jump off a building, you could set yourself ablaze, you could read a book. That has nothing to do with it, but you should read a book. And then after you survive these monumental sufferings, you can proclaim your godhood. Once you proclaim your godhood, you'll amass a following very quickly. I mean, people will believe literally anything. Trust me, you'll have a following. And then once you have this following, you send them on their merry way to find the assassin snail. Once this part of the plan is completed and we have eyes on the snail, we can finally begin thinking about what we actually should do to the snail. But first we have to consider the common traps that people fall into when thinking about how to defeat the snail. One of the most common approaches I see people taking to defeat the snail is trap the snail in concrete or metal or something in a metal box and then throw it into the ocean where it will never touch you. There are two huge issues with this plan. One is that erosion is a real thing that takes place, and in your immortal lifespan, this erosion will happen so fucking fast, it'll be the blink of an eye. For all you know, as soon as you throw it into the ocean, some random scuba diver can find it, open the box, find a snail that's somehow still alive, and relish it, treasure it. It becomes the god, not you. That's even worse than dying, because image is everything. But really the bigger issue is that if it does work the way it's supposed to do, is that you will not be able to touch the snail if you've had enough of life. Like, let's just keep it a buck. Immortality is gonna get old fast. And if you wanna, not be immortal anymore, the only way you can do that is by touching the snail. So when thinking about plans, we need to think about something that'll let us have access to the snail. Another common idea is to pay someone to watch the snail, and in theory, this seems good on paper, but one day, someone you trust will betray you. It will happen. Yeah, it's very easy to take your $1 million and pay people to watch the snail in a glass jar for 24/7, but one day, someone will come to usurp you. Someone will want to rid the world of your cult. Of the lamb. That was a very niche reference. And the third common thing that people suggest is sending it into space. The issue with this is that you are not seeing this snail for a very long time, so have fun living on Earth. This is gonna suck for you. You need access to the snail. Now that we got that out of the way, I will finally give you 3 super quick, easy plans to defeat the Immortal Snail. You've never seen a plan as good as this. I don't know why I did that, but plan A is called the family member. The plan is as follows. Everyone has a family member who can't stop talking. You know exactly what I'm talking to. Once they get a hold of you, and you're there, in the room with them, outside with them, at the coffee shop with them, for ages. It might be your mom, it might be your uncle, it might be your brother, it might be your cousin, it might be a fucking family friend, but they will not shut the fuck up. And I'm not saying you dislike this family member. In fact, you're probably pretty close, and you'll need them, because the first thing you do is enlist the help of this family member by putting the snail in front of them. Next, the family member will start speaking. You'll say something like, "Hey, family member, remember that time? Why don't you tell my snail friend here?" Now we have to consider what we know about the snail. The snail is hyper intelligent and socially aware, so once the family member starts talking, the snail will not want to leave because it'll be rude. I mean, the family member's nice, honestly, you know that yourself. But no matter how nice they are, if this person is uninterrupted, the story will transcend time. It'll continue long past their death, it'll continue long past the heat death of the universe, it'll continue forever, and the snail will be trapped there. No matter how intelligent the snail is, it can't speak, so its only choice is to sit and listen. And after countless centuries, eons, millennia, the snail will take so much mental damage that it will have forgotten its goal completely. And if you've had enough time on this earth, you can always just go up and touch the snail because you'll know exactly where it is. Now, if you don't have a family member like that, in which case you're lying, or you just don't want to submit the snail to eternal torture, we can move on to Plan B. Now, Plan B I like to call the cons of immortality. In other words, endless torture. This is the plan that requires your loyal followers to bring you every single snail. And honestly, it's not going to take that long. People will want to do it for their god, for you, and you have $1 million. You'll figure it out, genius. What you're going to want to do next is build an encampment for the sole purpose of harboring snails. Like, purchase a city, be like Mr. Beast, make a glass dome, put every single snail, including the immortal one, inside. Again, the snail is intelligent, it knows what it wants. You'll let the immortal snail mingle, and then you'll talk to it, you'll let it find partner, and you'll say, you'll surrender after you've lived a lifetime. The snail will think this is an excellent idea. I'll get to have a partner, I'll have children, grandchildren, maybe even great-grandchildren, and then I can finally complete my task with you surrendering to the snail. So easy peasy, the snail will live out its life, it'll have everything that I just explained, until everyone it cares for dies. It realizes then the issue with immortality. Everyone the snail has ever loved in this beautiful safe haven of snails has died. It is left only with new generations, but it's not the same. Make new friends but keep the old. One is silver, and the other's gold. The snail will realize it has only you. You guys must become best friends. It will not kill you because you are the one constant in its life. And then as the sun sets on a peaceful universe one day, you can make like Thanos, touch the snail when you've had enough. Goal complete. And the final plan, Plan C, is Endless Torture, Evil Edition. It has a very similar setup as Plan B. You will make an encampment, you will put all the snails in there, you will let the snail mingle and find love, have children, blah, blah, blah. That's all you need for now. Where it changes from Plan B is that before the snail's partner dies, before a child dies, you will enlist a Frenchman to walk by the enclosure. You will tell the Frenchman to grab the snail's family, maybe a bunch of other snails that it's made friends with, and take them away. The snail can do nothing to stop this because it's a fucking snail. You know where this is going. You're gonna feed them to the French people. You're gonna have a lot of escargot. There's a lot of snails to go by, and the snail will be too devastated to continue its goal. I mean, think about it. This snail just became aware and hyper intelligent. In this short amount of time that this happened, it made a family, it made connections, and it was all taken away. Brutally. The snail will become a deadbeat, which is very based, and drink for all of eternity, which is also very based. But the gotcha here is that you will know where it is at all times. So it's very similar to Plan B with a lot more of a malicious twist, but it has something additional. You will also have given a French person a dub for the first time in human history. Let's go! So in conclusion, what have we learned about the Immortal Snail? Well, I gave you 3 foolproof plans to defeat the snail and considered some approaches that we should not take. But some of you might be asking now, did we forget something? What about the snail's $1 million? Because the snail will use any means to get you. I mean, people are so easy to manipulate. One day, someone you trust will betray you. It will happen.
It was all a ruse. They've kept you distracted for long enough.
Yes, indeed. I'm sorry, little one. Don't turn around now. Just let it happen. Goodbye.